All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Windows Autopilot.
Yeah.
And looking at some of this material, especially this Dean Ellerby tutorial from 2024,
Hmm.
it seems like setting up new devices is about to get like way easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Like no more of those manual configuration headaches.
Exactly. That's the goal with Autopilot, right?
Yeah.
It's all about streamlining that whole process of setting up a device.
Yeah.
You're pre-configuring everything in the cloud, so when a user turns it on,
Right.
it kind of just sets itself up.
Yeah, that sounds almost too good to be true.
Right.
But before we get to the magic part,
Okay.
you mentioned there are some prerequisites we need to have in place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are we talking about here? What do we need?
So you can't expect magic without the right ingredients.
Right.
Licensing is the first thing.
Okay.
So you'll need a compatible Windows license. Not all Microsoft 365 licenses will work with Autopilot.
Oh, okay.
So you'll want to double check that.
So like what would be an example of one that does work?
So you're looking for something like a business premium or an enterprise license.
Okay, so licensing checked off the list.
Yeah.
What's next?
Next up, solid internet access for those devices.
Oh, okay.
That's key because Autopilot relies on that cloud configuration.
Right.
So the device needs to be able to connect during the setup process.
Got it.
And then, of course, you'll need to pre-configure some settings in Microsoft Intune,
Okay.
which is going to be your control center for everything. Autopilot.
Intune.
Yeah.
I think for someone who might not be, super familiar with the whole Microsoft ecosystem,
Sure.
what exactly is Intune?
So Intune is Microsoft's cloud-based service
Okay.
for managing devices and applications.
Okay.
You can think of it like a central hub
Okay.
where you define policies,
Right.
deploy software,
Yeah.
and basically have like a bird's eye view of what's happening on all your devices.
Gotcha.
With Autopilot Intune is where you'll be setting up and managing those device configurations and deployments. So you can think of Intune as like the conductor leading the orchestra of your device setup.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
All right, so we've got licenses.
Yeah.
We've got internet. We've got a good grasp of Intune.
Yeah.
What is next on this autopilot journey?
Now we get to the heart of it all.
Okay.
The Autopilot device list.
Oh.
This lives in Intune,
All right.
and it's where you specify which devices will automatically enroll in your organization.
So this is where I go into Intune and say, hey, these are the devices I want to manage with autopilot.
Exactly.
Okay.
But here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Any Windows Pro or enterprise device in the world can technically be added to this list.
Right. So that raises a bit of a concern for me because if anyone could potentially add a device, how do I ensure that only authorized devices are enrolled?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Like that could get chaotic really quickly.
It absolutely could,
Right.
which is why Microsoft built in some safeguards. One of those is something called a hardware hash.
Okay. A hardware hash?
It's a unique identifier for each device.
Okay.
Kind of like a fingerprint, you could say.
Right.
Based on its hardware.
So it's more than just like a random code then.
Yeah, it's tied to the device itself.
Okay, so how does that actually prevent unauthorized devices from being added then?
Good question.
Like what's the mechanism there?
So the hardware hash isn't just a random code.
Okay.
It's actually tied to the device's TPM chip.
Okay.
This chip is a hardware component
Mm-hmm.
that's designed for security,
Okay.
and it creates a secure link between the physical hardware and your cloud configuration.
Gotcha.
So this way, Microsoft can verify that the device trying to enroll is actually the same one you intended to add.
Okay. I see.
So it's a way to avoid any accidental
Right.
or malicious takeovers.
So the TPM chip is kind of like a security checkpoint.
Yeah, you could say that,
Okay.
making sure the right device is talking to Intune.
All right. And so how do we get this hardware hash in the first place?
So there are a few ways to do it,
Okay.
even before the device is fully set up.
Okay.
Ellerby shows a really neat way to use a PowerShell command in his tutorial.
Okay.
And it's pretty straightforward once you have the command itself.
All right. So now we've got our devices on the list.
Yeah.
They're secure. We know they're the right ones.
Uh-huh.
What happens next?
Now we automate.
Okay.
So Intune lets you create what are called dynamic groups.
Okay. Dynamic groups.
These are super useful
All right.
because they automatically populate with autopilot devices
Okay.
based on certain criteria that you set.
All right. So no more manually adding each device.
Yep.
That's great. Talk about saving time and effort.
Right.
For an IT admin, that's a game changer.
Exactly.
But what kind of criteria can I use to create these dynamic groups?
So you can get pretty specific.
Okay.
You can use things like the device model, the operating system version, even the department the device belongs to. This way, you can group devices together based on their characteristics or how they'll be used.
Okay. So I could have a group for, say, marketing.
Yep.
And another for engineering. And any new device that fits those criteria automatically gets added to the correct group.
Exactly.
That's impressive.
Right. Dynamic groups make managing a fleet of devices a whole lot smoother.
Yeah.
And once you have your groups, you need to create what are called deployment profiles.
Okay, deployment profiles.
These are like the blueprints for autopilot.
Okay.
They dictate how it acts on each device.
Blueprint time.
Yeah.
So what kind of things can we control with these profiles?
A lot. You can decide if the setup process is user-driven, meaning the user walks through some basic steps, or self-deploying, where the device basically sets itself up without any user interaction.
Oh, wow.
You can also control things like licensing terms, privacy settings, and even the user account type, like whether it's a standard user or an administrator.
So much control.
Yeah.
Like we can pre-configure so much.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. But what about situations where we need specific apps installed before the user even logs in?
Yeah.
Like, say, security software or a VPN.
You're thinking ahead.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Right.
That's where the enrollment status page comes in.
Okay, enrollment status page.
Think of it like a waiting room for the device.
Okay.
You can configure this page to ensure that certain critical apps are installed before the user even sees the desktop.
So no one wants to be exposed to, you know, security threats.
Right.
Just because they're setting up a new device.
Exactly.
So the enrollment status page kind of acts as a gatekeeper then.
You got it.
Okay.
Making sure everything's in place before the user gets access.
Gotcha.
It's all about striking that balance between security and a smooth experience for the user.
Speaking of user experience, what about all the other applications that you know they need to be productive?
Sure.
Does Autopilot handle that as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You get to decide exactly which application should be installed on those Autopilot devices.
Okay.
You can target specific apps to different groups of devices based on those dynamic groups we talked about.
So I could make sure that my marketing team has all their specific marketing apps, and my engineering team has theirs all pre-installed, ready to go.
It's amazing, right?
Amazing. But what if I want to make absolutely sure that they have a specific app?
Okay, so you can also choose to make certain apps required.
Oh, okay.
This means they'll be installed automatically.
Okay.
No matter what.
Right.
Without the user needing to do anything.
That's really handy.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like Autopilot really streamlines that entire setup process. From enrolling the device to getting all the right apps installed.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. And just when you thought it couldn't get any better.
Yeah.
There's something else I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Which is that Microsoft came out with this new feature in 2024 called Windows Autopilot Device Preparation.
Yeah.
That's what I call an upgrade.
Right.
So what's so special about device preparation?
Well, it's like they took everything great about Autopilot and made it even faster and more customizable.
Wow.
We're talking deployments that are tailored to the individual user and even faster setup.
All right, I can't wait to hear more about that.
Right.
But before we move on, is there anything else we should know about the traditional autopilot method?
One thing to keep in mind is that while autopilot is incredibly powerful, it needs to be configured correctly. Think of it like a high-performance car. In the right hands, it's amazing.
Right.
But it needs a skilled driver.
So understanding not just the steps, but the why behind each choice we make is going to be really critical.
That's how you ensure a smooth experience for both you and the people using those devices.
Yeah, this is making me see that Autopilot is a lot more than just a technical tool. It's like a whole new way to rethink how we approach setting up and managing devices.
Yeah.
And it seems like a real shift towards making things work better for everyone involved.
You're getting it.
Right.
It really is about empowering users.
Yeah.
Simplifying management.
Yeah.
And ultimately making a more efficient and secure work environment.
Okay, well, why don't we move on to part 2?
Yeah.
Where we can really unpack this exciting world of autopilot device preparation.
Let's do it.
All right.
All good.
All right. So we've covered kind of the basics of autopilot.
Yeah.
And now I'm really curious about this new kid on the block, this Windows Autopilot Device Preparation.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned it's all about like speed and flexibility.
Right.
What exactly makes it so different from the traditional autopilot method?
You're right to be curious. Device preparation really takes a lot of what's great about autopilot and streamlines it even further.
Okay.
So remember how we talked about the autopilot device list and the whole hardware hash collection process?
Right.
Well, device preparation actually bypasses all of that.
No more hardware hashes.
That's right.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, we're not adding individual devices to a list anymore.
Nope.
What are we doing instead?
With device preparation, you're not managing devices on a list.
Okay.
Instead, you're assigning policies directly to users.
Oh.
It's a whole different approach.
That's a pretty big shift.
It is.
So we're moving from a device-centric model to a user-centric one.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see where the flexibility comes in.
Yeah.
But how does it work in practice?
So think of it this way.
Okay.
You create a device preparation policy in tune with all the settings you want for a specific user or group of users to have.
Right.
Then when any of those users set up a new device, that policy automatically kicks in and configures the device for them.
So it's almost like saying, hey, anyone in the marketing department who sets up a new device will automatically get these specific apps, these settings, this configuration.
That's it.
Okay.
All about user-centric deployment.
Gotcha.
And the really cool thing is it works, even if the device isn't brand new.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can use device preparation to re-provision existing devices too.
Oh, okay. So even if a device was previously used by someone else, I can use device preparation to wipe it clean and set it up for a new user with all the correct settings automatically.
That's right.
That simplifies things immensely.
It does. It's incredibly versatile.
Wow.
And if you remember our waiting room analogy with the enrollment status page, device preparation streamlines that too.
Okay.
You can specify which applications you want pre-installed, and it all happens in the background.
Gotcha.
By the time the user gets to their desktop, everything's ready to go.
So even faster setup.
Even faster.
That's impressive.
It's pretty close to magic.
Yeah, it really is.
And here's another thing you might appreciate.
Okay.
Device preparation gives you even more granular control over settings.
Okay.
So you can target specific settings to specific users, even within the same department.
Okay, that's a level of personalization I honestly didn't think was possible.
Right.
But with all this power,
Yeah.
there must be some things to be careful about, right?
Yeah. Well, I've been burned before.
I understand.
Go.
There are a couple of nuances to be aware of.
Right.
One thing Dean Ellerby highlighted in his tutorial was that device preparation requires a specific type of user group in Intune.
Okay.
It needs to be owned by a special service account, not a regular user account.
Gotcha.
There are a few other technical details like that to keep in mind.
So making sure we understand the back-end setup is really important.
Absolutely. The good news is Microsoft provides clear guidance on how to set everything up correctly.
Okay.
So you're not left fumbling in the dark.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So now we've got this new powerful tool in device preparation.
Right.
But we still have the traditional autopilot method.
Yep.
So in the real world, when would I choose one over the other?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
If you're primarily working with brand new devices,
Okay.
straight from the manufacturer or reseller, the traditional autopilot method is probably still your go-to.
Okay.
It's well-established, it's reliable, and it gets the job done.
But if I'm working with a mix of new and existing devices, or if I need that really granular control over specific user settings, then it sounds like device preparation might be the better option.
It really comes down to choosing the right tool for the specific situation.
Yeah.
And don't forget, you can even use both methods within the same organization.
Okay.
It's all about flexibility.
Flexibility is key.
It is.
Especially in the world of technology, where things change so rapidly.
Absolutely. So to recap, both autopilot and device preparation are all about making device setup simpler and more automated.
That's right.
And they both rely on that cloud configuration and those predefined settings. But device preparation takes it up a notch with that user-centric approach and even more control.
That's right.
Did I miss anything crucial?
You got it. Both methods are incredibly valuable tools for anyone managing devices.
Yeah.
The key is to understand what each one excels at.
Okay.
And then choose the one that best fits your specific needs and the types of devices you're working with.
This is giving me a whole new perspective on device management.
Good.
It's not just about keeping things running.
Right.
It's about setting up an environment where the technology actually supports the people using it.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
That's what makes autopilot and device preparation so fascinating.
Yeah.
They're not just technical tools.
Right.
They're enabling better workflows, better security, and overall a better experience for everyone.
This is making me think about all sorts of possibilities.
Yeah, like what?
Like imagine how much easier onboarding new employees could be.
Right.
No more spending hours setting up a new machine.
Exactly.
Everything is just ready to go.
Think about how much time and frustration that could save.
Right.
For both the new employee and for IT.
Yeah, for sure. No more fumbling with settings on their first day.
Exactly.
And plus it makes the company look good, right?
Yeah.
It shows they're investing in their employees and their experience from day one.
Absolutely. And it's not just about new hires.
Right.
Imagine a company upgrading to a new operating system on hundreds of devices.
Okay.
In the past, that would have been a logistical headache.
Oh, I can only imagine. I remember the days of manually upgrading computers one by one.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare.
With Autopilot, you can automate so much of that.
Right.
Pre-configure the upgrade schedule deployments and even monitor everything remotely.
Wow. So it takes a massive burden off of IT's shoulders.
It really does.
It's like conducting an orchestra of devices, all moving in perfect harmony towards a better updated state.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It highlights how Autopilot changes the role of IT.
Right.
It's no longer just about reacting to problems. It's about proactively managing the entire device ecosystem.
It frees up time and resources to focus on bigger picture things.
Exactly.
Like improving security or exploring new technologies that could benefit the whole organization.
Exactly. It's not just about saving time. It's about opening up possibilities.
Right.
And enabling real innovation.
This is making me realize that autopilot and device preparation are about so much more than just managing devices. They're tools that can help an organization manage, change itself, adapt quickly, and embrace new ways of working.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Right.
In today's fast-paced world, that agility is essential for any organization that wants to stay ahead of the curve.
I'm convinced. I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
Why don't we move on to part 3? I'm eager to explore more about the impact of autopilot and device preparation on organizations as a whole.
Sounds good.
So we spent a lot of time talking about how autopilot and device preparation work.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to kind of zoom out and think about the WHY.
Right, the big picture.
Yeah. What are the implications of having a tool like this, especially with the advancements we're seeing with device preparation?
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the technical details.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's about the impact these tools have on organizations and the people who use them.
Exactly. Like imagine onboarding new employees.
Yeah.
In the past, setting up a new device could take hours.
Oh, yeah.
Installing software, configuring settings.
It was pain.
Time-consuming for IT, time-consuming for the employee.
And it's not the most welcoming experience.
Right, like first day on the job and you're just like...
Yeah, fiddling with settings.
Yeah.
Waiting for things to install.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't create the best first impression. But with autopilot and device preparation, we can totally transform that experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Imagine a new employee opens their laptop for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's already personalized. All the apps they need, security settings.
Everything just ready to go.
Like right out of the box.
It's a much smoother and more positive start to their journey with the company.
Totally. It's like saying, welcome aboard. Yeah. Here are the tools you need to succeed.
Exactly. And it goes beyond new employees, too.
Okay.
Think about large-scale device deployments.
Right.
Like a company upgrading to a new operating system.
Yeah.
In the past, that was a logistical nightmare for IT.
Oh, I remember those days.
Right.
Trying to coordinate upgrades on hundreds of computers, manually updating each one.
Yeah, it was a massive undertaking.
It was a nightmare.
With Autopilot, you can automate so much of that process.
Right.
Pre-configure the upgrade settings, schedule deployments, even monitor the progress remotely.
It's like having a control panel for your entire fleet of devices.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, you can manage everything from a central location and ensure a smooth, consistent upgrade process.
For everyone.
It really is shifting IT from a reactive role to a proactive one.
I love that.
Yeah, instead of putting out fires constantly,
right.
They can focus on strategic initiatives that benefit the whole organization.
That's where the true value of these tools lies.
Right. It's not just saving time or reducing those headaches.
Yeah, it's about enabling growth and innovation.
This has been incredibly insightful.
I'm glad.
I'm starting to see autopilot and device preparation as more than just tools for managing devices. They're tools for managing change itself,
You got it.
allowing organizations to adapt quickly
Right.
and embrace these new ways of working.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
They empower organizations to be more agile, more responsive to the changing demands, of the digital world.
And in a world where technology is constantly evolving, that agility is essential for success.
Absolutely. The organizations that can adapt and integrate new technologies quickly, those are the ones that are going to thrive.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways you want our listener to walk away with?
Okay, so the most important thing is to remember that these tools are more than just technical solutions.
Right.
They're strategic assets.
Yeah.
That can fundamentally change how an organization manages devices.
Right.
And supports its users.
It's not just about making IT's life easier.
Nope.
It's about creating a better experience for everyone.
That's right. So don't be afraid to embrace the power of automation and personalization.
Right.
These tools are designed to simplify things.
It's about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. And finally, think beyond the technical details.
Okay.
Consider the bigger picture.
Yeah.
How can autopilot and device preparation help your organization achieve its goals?
Yeah, how can it empower your users and drive innovation?
Exactly. Those are the questions that will unlock the true potential of these powerful tools.
This has been a great conversation.
It has.
I think our listener is walking away with a solid understanding of Windows Autopilot and its potential.
Yeah, I agree. This technology is reshaping the way we think about device management and the future of work itself.
Well said to our listener. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with technology.
Absolutely.
Until next time on The Deep Dive.